good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time zone it is, wherever you are in the world, it is your Lord and Saviour. And you may be looking at the title of this Walk and Talk vlog on the 15th of August 2023 in the year of our Lord Talos, and you may be wondering, V5, Dark Ages, I don't remember anybody announcing that in an official sense, and you'd be absolutely right, because no one has done. Though one being, of course, Paradox Interactive, or / and Renegade Game Studios, which I could not pronounce properly there for a second. That's fine. Emma, this way. So, what's all this then? Well, as you may be aware, I am about to run a V20 Dark Ages one-shot. Death to the Warlocks, or Down to the Warlocks, I don't remember exactly what I've named it. Where some neonates are going to go and fight some Tremere, take down some Tremere, all in the name of Daddy Mithras. And that came about following a discussion on the Lord by Night Discord server, where some people were talking about Dark Ages and they really wish they put it into V5 because then they play it. And that really annoyed me because it's out there. It's not like there's some strange abstract concept that you can't get your hands on anymore. You can get V20 Dark Ages, print on demand, from DriveThruRPG. I'm actually going to be really helpful and give you a link to that in the description below. I mean, the older stuff, if you want to do that, like the original Vampire the Dark Ages and Dark Ages Vampire, are available as PDFs, which I'm also going to provide in the description below. But nobody, or at least these sorts of people, are not prepared to do this. And I just find that a little bothersome. It's a similar sort of mindset to me as those Dungeons and Dragons players who will like homebrew the shit out of the system until it's a completely unrecognisable game, rather than just learning a new system. Like, it's also a similar sort of mindset to those articles you might find, how to play this character in Dungeons and Dragons when a system for that game already exists. And I'll give you an example for that. Like you might remember with the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime, that there were several articles like how to play the main characters from this show in Dungeons and Dragons when Cyberpunk Red, Cyberpunk 2020, and the first one, which I think was just called Cyberpunk, they exist, and you can do just that. Like, there was also similar when The Witcher Netflix show came out. It's like how to play The Witcher, Geralt the Witcher from The Witcher in D&D, and there's the fucking Witcher RPG for you to play, and I do believe he has stats in that book as well. But my favourite one, actually, is a fairly obscure one, how to play Corvo Artano from Dishonored in D&D. When the Dishonored RPG exists, and Corvo does have stats in that book, in case you can use him or play as him, which might be a bit difficult depending on the game master in question, but you could certainly do it if you're doing it solo. Just yank him out and just pretend you're playing one of the Dishonored games, or your fanfic of the third one. So there's that element of it, where you can just learn a new game, and it's not even that new in the concept of 5th edition stuff, or vampire stuff I should say, because they're all very similar. You have an ability and an ability. Sorry, an attribute and ability. In V5 it's an attribute and skill. You form a dice pool and you roll those together. Rather than rousing the blood users when you spend a blood point. Willpower's a bit different as well, which admittedly V5 does do better, and I do admittedly do like the rouse system from V5. But it's not that dissimilar. And then you have like certain groups of people like, I'm not going to do it because there's too much crunch. Again, you lot play D&D. When the whole OGL scandal happened earlier this year, 2023, a lot of you jumped to Pathfinder, which, from my understanding, which is admittedly rather limited, crunchier. And there's also this concept that crunch is bad, which isn't, not necessarily. I mean, I think it's universally agreed that Shadowrun is too much, but crunch doesn't mean bad. What does that even mean anyway, crunch? Like, there's more numbers involved, and maybe some more dice rolling. I don't know, it's just, it's always, I've heard crunch is a derogatory term in TTRPG design, and I don't think that's true. Also, it implies that it's harder to get into, and again, it isn't. There's not that much more involved, really. And this is somebody who doesn't like doing a lot of maths. So yeah, that element of it really annoys me as well. And there's also the design element of it, like the actual vampire-related stuff, which, oh yeah, there's quite a lot I need to go through here. I mean, there are lots of things you could do to simulate a Dark Ages experience in Vampire the Masquerade, or rather Vampire the Dark Ages. You could change drive to ride and archery instead of firearms. But then again, those two particular terms, drive and firearms, are gold terms for those things anyway, so why bother? So you want something authentic, that's why. What else you could do? You could, for your convictions, use some of the roads ethics, just like you were encouraged to do when you complained about the Sabbat being antagonists. We want them to be playable. We'll just homebrew it, just use the ethics and put those into convictions. Which again, that's wrong, because you're using legacy stuff, and legacy stuff is bad. The developers said so. I rolled my eyes, in case you can see with a shadow in my sunglasses. My reactor lights, I'm going to be pedantic. But that kind of leads on to the point, because the roads ethics are a bit more than just replacements for your own personal convictions. And roads are very different from paths of enlightenment. Why is that, you may be asking? Well, you just need to have a look at the name. Paths of enlightenment imply a heavy spiritual thing. That it isn't just like keeping the beast at bay, it's an attainment of one's true self, which for the Sabbat is the vampiric existence. The whole mass embrace of the grave, the shovel head thing, is like you're burying your humanity and you rise out a new person, a better individual. The master race, I guess, if we're going to word it like that, because that's essentially what the Sabbat doctrine is. The Sabbats are the true rulers of the earth, and then everyone else is beneath them. So, and then the roads is just a path that you would follow to keep your beast at bay, to put it very plainly. The whole concept of a masquerade, the masquerade, is a Camarilla invention. It was suggested by Raphael Carozon. So the whole blending in with the the livestock as it were. Whereas not letting your vampire show was just common sense. There's obviously a lot more to it than that. I've done a whole episode on the roads and paths as the general overview. You can find that in the description below. There's a lot, there's a lot of nuance I can't possibly cover as I am ad-libbing as I am walking my dogs. But yeah, it's a lot more than I think Paradox is cut out to do, and there's just more ways of playing vampire than just sticking to your humanity all the time. Which, to be fair, most games tend to be a few sessions long anyway. And that's not me being like a power-hungry gamer or what have you, anything you hear about V20 fans online. It's just, as I said, there are just more ways of playing vampire. The different tales, and I think really capturing the Dark Ages spirit is far more than just homebrewing a few source books into it or changing a few mechanics around. There's a deeper, more philosophical understanding about what it means to be a vampire. I mean, that to me is the main difference. Like, Vampire the Masquerade is like trying to hold on to your humanity whilst coming to terms with your vampiric existence. Dark Ages is very much that as well, but there's more terms of what it means to be a monster. As I said, there's subtle changes and nuances that I don't think Paradox will ever attempt to do. And so, if you reach to this point at the vlog, I urge you and encourage you all to try Vampire the Dark Ages. And just play different games, like, as I said earlier on, there's not that much different in it really, it's just a few features really, and V20 has more bells and whistles on it. We like playing games, we like playing Vampire, there's other versions of Vampire out there, try it. Don't just cast it away because it's not V5, because that's just silly. And I'm not saying you shouldn't play V5 if you enjoy it. Do it. If you want to homebrew with the things I just suggested, go ahead and do it. In fact, I'll go a step further. I'm going to give you a whole list of source books I think you can include in your games, if that's what you want to do, because I'm a generous bastard like that, but I just want people to properly experience the setting, which is why I'm actually running the V20 Dark Ages game, because I was so peeved by this whole conversation that people were just willing to dismiss it like, no, it's not V5, I ain't touching it. That I want to give that experience to people and get rid of the misnomer that crunch is bad V20 is bad, and so on and so forth. It's a lot of fun, and I just really want more people to do it, and I know that a lot of people aren't going to pay attention to this anyway because it's one of my walk and talk vlogs, but I'm hoping it will appeal to somebody. I hope there'll be a storyteller there who'll watch this, or some players that, yeah, fuck it, this weekend or whatever, we'll give it a go. We'll see what happens. We're going to use those links that Lord by Night's dropped in the description below of this walk and talk vlog, or whatever, and just have some fun. Just try something different. As I said earlier on, they're not too dissimilar. Like, and stop shutting down conversations like, oh, V20's bad, or it's not V5, I'm going to touch it. Like, try something new, try something different. Like, play other games, and that's not to say, oh, you play V5, you're bad, you only want to play V5. That's like, no, he's not. I've given you the systems, what you could do to change things. It's a very simple thing to do if you just want to play medieval vampires, to which I roll my eyes at you, but whatever, you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what you're doing is right or wrong, other than the fact saying that V20 is bad. Go and play other games. Try it, you may actually enjoy it. Seriously. Like, it really does annoy me, and there's more I could say, but I'm running out of time, and I'm just waffling. But yeah, I feel very passionate about people just playing other games and experiencing different things. Like, a similar things like, oh, I really like Wraith, I've got no one to play it with, and there's like 5 people on a server that talk about this. Like, play Wraith. There's 5 of you that want to play it. Range things. Try something new, like, experience new things and systems, and just think a bit more. And I don't mean that nasty, because that did actually come across as a bit snidey, but, you know, just, well, I mean just appreciate the setting, and just think, okay, what makes this Dark Ages setting rather than just a medieval setting? You know, a bunch of source books we can throw at this. But anyway, to end on a positive note, I want to hear about your Dark Ages experiences. Tell me about some of your concepts and your ideas, and tell me some of your favourite Dark Ages books. Are they any of the ones I'm going to list down below for you to use in your own games, or is it something completely different? And until next time, farewell.